now we have Pascal Sto from Zentrum SDS. Yeah, welcome him, and thanks everybody for coming. Excited to hear what you have to say.
Hello, thank you, Markus. Hello, everyone. My name is Pascal Sto, and I'm not only from the co-initiator of the Zentrum SDS, but also working as a project manager at the University of Applied Sciences in Bern. I don't know, Markus, can you give me quick feedback? Is it stable? Okay, thank you very much. Good, before I start, I would like to ask everyone in here, who of you is participating in the network SDS with his organization and knows about it? Okay, yeah, we have some people around. Welcome home. Good. So, how did that start? First, do not get confused. There is a network SDS, Souveräne Digitale Switzerland, which we started in summer, and there is a very new Zentrum SDS, and I will tell you the difference today. But before I come to that, I want to introduce you to these 60 people. They are working at our Institute for Public Sector Transformation, and they're one of the reasons why I am here today, because they are working in a lot of projects, sometimes with you, but often also with the government, with public institutions. And when they work in these projects, they tell also Matthias Stürmer, our director of the Institute, they increasingly tell us that they get asked about digital sovereignty and open source software. Like, as we, with this institute, are working since many years in this area, this is not a big surprise, but the increase since last 24 months, this is very interesting to see. Also, many thanks to President Trump for being best marketer so far. So, if you would make the most of it business-wise, but we are a university, so we don't. But if we would make the same study currently 4 times. We would consult City of Zurich and 3 other cities and 4 other cantons in open source strategies, and often we would say the same things, because currently a lot of people, they are in the same situation. So, as we have an interest in applying the science and not maximizing our study income, we founded the network SDS to share these insights we gain, and also to bring all those parties together who are actually sometimes doing the same things or could be doing the same things. And that worked very well. We started that in summer, and now over 200 organizations are participating. This is free participation, no obligation, but also that means it's not funded. And we are also not looking for funding, because it should be an open space. You see many departments also joined, and many organizations from public sector, and they could not join if there would be a membership. But already these logo pages and the online events and kickoff events, they helped to bring people together who were in the same situation. What situation was that, or is that? From procurement side, they need to decide, okay, what strategies should we make? They get asked often by the politics side. They ask the operational leaders, okay, what's your strategy concerning digital sovereignty? It's increasingly a subject, and it will become even more one, because I don't know which one of you followed the recent politics, but Heidi Kraken had a motion where she where she told the Federal Council basically that her first motion, which was from 3 years ago, concerning the definition of this digital sovereignty, is not enough. She wants more. She wants an impulse programming for digital sovereignty, and she also mentioned dependencies, something which is not included in the current definition of the Federal Council about digital sovereignty. So that means pressure will increase, pressure for operational leaders in the public sector, especially in the private sector as well, but only a bit, because they, as we see it at the moment, they don't have the same reason to justify themselves at the moment as we see that in public organizations. Good. So I want to tell you some use cases so that we can actually see how we can help each other. Often people from procurement side or also from service side, they get asked, okay, you have a digital sovereign product, why should I procure this? I do not need autarky. I fear autarky. It's against innovation. So often we see this opinion, and actually this is a slightly misguided one. No one wants to become North Korea. We always say, or we see, it is a very emotionless way to go if you position the sovereignty, digital sovereignty, in between external control and autarky. What we are actually talking about is autonomy. What we are actually talking about is more independence, which also leads to more competition. So we have a market where sometimes no market exists anymore, more collaboration, and yes, this is definitely achievable through more openness. More openness doesn't always it requires the right setup, of course. Otherwise, it will not work. But with the right setup, you will definitely achieve more digital sovereignty. And of course, many of you are specialists, so I don't need to tell you. But it is interesting for us to see what we need to tell our business stakeholders, what we need to tell our procurers, or if you are from the procurement side, what you need to tell internally, strategy-wise. What is the difference between proprietary software and open source software? And you can actually break that down in like an easy overview like that. Often we get asked, or also companies get asked, why should I buy your digital sovereign software, your open software? I currently use this software, now I'm using this one. I will be dependent one software or another. Why should I do whole migration? And it's okay to be dependent on a software. The difference is you're not dependent on the provider with open source softwares. Of course, as well, again, if you have the right setup. And this might be an easy step or like obvious to many of you, but we see that with the increasing amount of people that now gets interested in the subject of digital sovereignty, that you have to explain that more. Like 5 years ago, you were mainly talking with techies about this subject, about open source. Now you're talking with business leaders, with public leaders about this subject, who sometimes heard this term like twice in their life before. But now they have to face it either because politics or because of internal operations which require more digital sovereignty, which is completely up to the organization to decide. But we see as these trends emerge that more people are having to face these decisions. Good. Also, we have some interesting pricing trends. We have here Atlassian, which, by the way, I liked using Jira. I don't know, maybe I was the only one. So if you don't abuse it, it's quite cool actually. But a lot of companies who used this Atlassian suite came to us, came to probably some of you guys as well, and said, hey, we cannot go into this data center, but we are now forced to do that. For some of them it was not a problem, for some of them it was a problem, and so we were approached for digital sovereign alternatives. And then there are the others who say, okay, I don't need this alternative because, for example, let's go back to 2019. They say, okay, same prices for both softwares. I don't care about my data that much. So from a pricing point of view, I will not migrate. And then if we look forward, this curve is important to have in mind. So if you now, for example, talk about openDesk pricing, I don't know, already knows one of the M365 alternatives who is emerging right now. If a lot of people are, because of that, talking about the pricing of openDesk, for example, the pricing of EuroOffice and so on. And it's important to keep that in mind. Who says where's the pricing of M365 in 5 years, for example? We cannot know it for sure, but what we know for sure is that with some softwares we have a vendor lock-in, and we always then have the choice in some years. We either pay the price increase if there is one, or we do a migration, which could either have an impact on our daily operations, or we don't even want it because it takes like 2 years. So this is the thing about the definition currently from the Federal Council, which states you are digital sovereign if you are able to choose between options. So keep in mind, or maybe you can also keep in mind for your customers, you can choose between your options. Yes, that's great. That means you are actually an organization. But if those are bad options, is that really a choice? So how should we make the definition that we don't face only bad options? That was one of the reasons why we founded Network SDS, because for all those organizations who were interested in that, they wanted to discuss that and to learn about that together. Of course, if you're facing this topic, you sometimes land at the Lighthouse Schleswig-Holstein, who achieved a bigger digital sovereignty by using or migrating to open source, and is now an important case to observe and to learn from. Also from their mistakes, they talk very openly about it, and they also talk now about it that they saved 15 million euro license fees per year, whilst having now a cost of 9 million. But as great as this sounds, this is after 7 years of since they started thinking about this migration. And this is neither good nor bad. This is just interesting for us to plan. So if you talk about with your customer, or if you're a procuring organization, if you talk about return on invest, make a plan for the future and calculate when will you have this return on invest? Will it be there? And this is mostly a good thing if you plan that for multiple years, because it will take some time, especially if you have big migrations like that. So I don't know how it is about you, but I often get asked, okay, will I have a return on invest? And then the timeline certainly is a big factor. Good. Also, you never want to be the first one, especially not as a Swiss. So it's good to see what internationally what's going on, and we see these trends. Like we already had it in the first section. Jurisdiction and governance is a big trend. That is the main company is located within the EU, and that avoiding a vendor lock-in. So the companies in EU and or especially public sector institutions who strive for more digital sovereignty do it that way, as we observe at the moment. Also very interesting, the least in Switzerland at the moment, but especially in Germany and also France, local value creation is an argument. They openly speak about giving contracts or like using the existing right better to give more contracts to companies in the tech sector, in the own tech sector. And because they also rely on studies that show if you don't give the contracts there, you actually support the competitions. And which is not like 50-50, it's like it's very uneven at the moment. So that's where this trend comes from. And this trend, as most of the other trends we will see in Switzerland soon, or we think that we will see this trend coming to Switzerland as well. Good, then we already had them mentioned today. There is the need in Switzerland to observe open standards and initiatives. That's just one example of many. We heard some of them also this morning, and we saw with our university that it's a bit missing in Switzerland, like some organizations who bring that together, especially whilst being in contact with the government. So there's not really a strategy. How can we adopt things in Europe that emerge, and how can we contribute back? There are many companies are doing great things in this regard, but not like nationwide and not like close to the government. So that's where we decided to act with each other. Also, of course, artificial intelligence is a subject. So there, for example, the Federal Chancellery speaks openly about a great thing about open source is that it moves innovation forward. So this is a big chance. A chance also for the local companies, but also a chance for the procuring public organizations, because like that they don't have to buy the same things twice. Instead they can develop something together and use something together. We already have many great examples with from companies, I guess, which are also in here today. But we can institutionalize that more, and we can establish more processes to do that. One example is from Germany, Open Code, based on Fortio, is a platform who has already more than 3,000 projects on it, where public institutions work on it together. How did that emerge in Germany? It was not just one company that could establish that. It was the ZenDiS, the Center for Digital Sovereignty, and they are also behind openDesk. They did not code everything by themselves. They merged via B1. They merged code from existing manufacturers. They made contracts with all of them, and they made one strong software out of it, which, if you calculate all those investments from those companies together, this is more than 1 billion investment actually in this software. So often we get asked, how can you even compete with a hyperscaler, for example? We saw it with Tobias before, how you can collaborate together, and this is another example. You need to combine existing things, and that works especially well in open source. But, of course, it needs coordination. You don't have this one company owning it all, so that's why institutions like the ZenDiS emerge. We don't have a ZenDiS in Switzerland. InnoSwiss also thought it's not innovative to have a ZenDiS in Switzerland because there's already one. So they didn't want to finance us. That's okay, because the need for it was so high that we could now found the Center SDS for Souveräne Digitale Switzerland anyway, and we did it with 37 partners. But we come back to that in a minute. First, I want to give you an overview about possible actions with your customers, for example, or if you are a procuring organization, you always see the same pattern. First, it's about the definition of digital sovereignty and what you as an organization want and need to achieve. Then it's about understanding the benefits and challenges for these implementation processes. And then it's about coordinating this whole thing. Here I can recommend the scientist Linacker. He has a great theories about internal open source program offices and also external open source program offices. How can you coordinate within your organization or company, and how can you coordinate between? Then you need visibility, and often you need to learn from productive pilot projects. Often only demo versions get used, or only theoretical studies get made, and we then see that when you go to the doing, that the strategies often fail. We also have from the past, we have cases like that. For example, in a canton Bern, where open source project failed some years ago, and always when you come up with an open project, an open source project or product, you will have the people asking the same question about 10 years ago, and you have to explain them that it was not just open source that was the problem. So it was simple project management in like 95% of the cases. At least that was what the study from PricewaterhouseCoopers told in this case. Good. One example of this process was we as University of Applied Sciences Bern, we did an evaluation for openDesk for the City of Zurich, and this evaluation is now open, so everyone can have access to it, and this was shared also within the network SDS. And interesting was, which was then the title in most of the media coverage, they cannot switch yet at this moment to from M365 to openDesk. What a surprise. We kind of anticipated that, yes. So it was not the goal of the study to find out about that. It was the goal how, if they wanted, they did not make a decision yet, and they don't have to. They're currently finding out what are the implications and what would be reasonable processes. And this is a process which will be very good for City of Zurich, because when now the politicians come back to them, to the operational leads of, for example, the workplace team of the City of Zurich, which is quite big because it's 35,000 employees with supported by this workplace team. If now the politicians come back and ask questions, hey, how can we become digital sovereign? They are prepared. They can give good answers. Others which say, okay, we don't have to act because we will never want to migrate away from M365, they will struggle a little bit with, for example, answers to the politicians and also to the concerned citizens. So this is a good reason why you should at least dive into this subject, even though you don't have to make decisions yet about your architecture. Good. And now we see that many organizations are doing something like that. It's not only the City of Zurich, then other cantons were interested, other cities, even municipalities, and they all face sometimes the same challenges and sometimes a bit different ones. And within the network, we couldn't really work together. It's not financed. So we founded the Zentrum SDS, which is kind of a bit inspired by the ZenDiS in Germany, and we also work together with the ZenDiS in Germany. There is a letter of intent, and soon there will also be contracts for example, for openDesk to make the distribution easier also for companies in Switzerland who struggle at the moment, for example, to get subscriptions. We have 4 different work streams, and participating in a work stream is possible for 5,000 Swiss francs per organization participating, so a very low entry, and that was kind of the goal. We will not be able to to then make very big projects or a lot of reference architectures, whatever. But the main goal is to coordinate and also to start bigger projects from within this. And in the open science thought, like the results in the end will be open as well. So the whole Swiss and EU economy and also all the procuring organizations will benefit from that. Here you see who already joined, and it's a nice mix between government organizations and companies, and in between, for example, also Switch. We will see in the panel discussion after. Good, yeah. The roles I already said. We have, for example, also Kommando Cyber Commando in here, which is particularly interested in open source software funding. I think David, you already said some things about this. For example, with the what's it called, STA fund from Europe, which, and of course this is smaller, but actually the Cyber Commando also wants to fund some crucial open source components who they are using at the moment, but are actually just supported by 2 or 3 people living in a garage, or that's what they told about that, and they are very interested in supporting that. Yeah, I have to finish soon, so I will just say quickly, this is the bridge to what Tobias said earlier. There is just last week a study came out about how AI clouds, especially sovereign AI clouds will develop in Europe, and that if you don't make that right, the hyperscalers again will have the majority of the, or not just the majority, like the main part of the market, and it will again be vendor lock-in like, just for other reasons than before, to actually the solution will be to pool the demand and supply on a neutral platform. And that is very interesting. This study didn't have anything to do with what, or like, they don't know Tobias Brunner and Vision, but this is kind of the exact solution he pitched. And solutions like that we would like to have a look at the Center SDS from both sides. From the service side, we already have feedback from companies also like Infomaniak, who said, oh, sounds interesting, let's have a look. They didn't say yet, hey, that's the perfect solution, but we will have a look in this format. And also departments like Kommando Cyber or the City of Zurich will have a look. Good. So with that, I was honored to present you some of the activities we have, and then I don't know if we have room for one question or if we should.
Thank you very much, Pascal. I think we have room for 1 or 2 questions. Quick ones, please.
Hi, thank you for the talk. There was some pushback a few months ago involving a court actually in Zurich. I don't know whether you were aware of where they opted for sovereign IT infrastructure and were kind of facing lobbying counter pressure, so to say. Do you have experience with that kind of initiatives where these vendors that have obviously a lot to lose try to wedge their way back in and sabotage or actually influence decision makers, and how are you reacting on that?
Yes, a lot actually. We live in Bern. How can I sum that up? There was also the US Chamber of Commerce, for example, who saw about this initiative. We were very honored, and they thought it was a good idea to call many of the members and put them under pressure. But this is already over, because then the police and justice department themselves reached out to the Chamber of Commerce and told them that there is no way they can do that. So this was very interesting. So there is a political game, of course, but we don't feel bothered like at the moment. We also say very clearly, this is not political. Of course, everything in life is, but what we mean by that is that Center SDS and Network SDS will never take position and say, you as a department or you as a city have to do that and that. That's for others to do. What we are is a vessel, or like a work stream, multiple work streams to find solution together, but only those who want to find one. The others who don't want to be bothered with this subject, they don't need to. And then we think like economically. It will be like any other market. You will have, the stronger your solutions get or become, the more they are developed, the better the bundling is, which Tobias also talked about. This you can see on cloud level, but also on a software level. The better this is. You can build that with subscriptions. You don't need software license to have a great bundling. You can have a digital sovereign subscription, but the code is not is not owned by the company, and then you can be digital sovereign, but you have the luxury of having a bundling as a customer. And if that is achieved, the market will grow by themselves, and then that will kind of solve these actions. Until then, they can do that. We also have at the university, we have a competence center for procurement. Don't know if you know Rika Koch. She was the one in the media for SBB Siemens. So they are sitting right next to us. And we intend to use this relations for everyone who wants to navigate this space, to make it safe and to evaluate together in workstream 1 actually how you can procure digital sovereign solutions safely without facing backlash.